Recording in progress. New language there. Um, let's see where we were going um, last week, and which was interesting was my guitar gently weeps,
Yeah, yeah.
and the A minor A
Right.
verse and chorus, which actually found myself thinking about when I was riding my bike yesterday.
Okay, good.
I often do this. Just
Yeah.
I'm thinking through it. Just okay, A minor, A, and I'm putting it all in this game. Anyways, kind of fun. But anyway, that and there's a and we'll go through that. But then also, I don't know if we talked about or this was just my all of a sudden we're doing Beatles stuff, but I'll follow the sun. Did we talk about that?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm not sure why. I might have just simply heard it last week,
Yeah.
and so I I started working on that, um,
Okay.
and that's really enjoyed that actually. So I'm working on both of those things.
So were you doing these by ear or looking things up, or what did you have as a like a resource?
My guitar gently weeps. We worked
We
through,
went through the whole A minor part.
yeah, the A minor part, and then we talked about the chorus
Yeah.
A, and so that I sort of worked partway through um, because let's see.
So it looks like you.
Oh,
Yeah.
initially I was trying. Initially, that's what it was. On the chorus, this was an opportunity to play bar chords up the neck
Yeah.
and start on A up here and instead of starting back here. And so anyway, worked through that and then looked it up to kind of confirm what I was doing, and I had most of it, and so did that, and then on on I'll Follow the Sun. That that was I could that opening.
Yeah. We have a little melody picked out, kind of an arpeggio on the chords.
Yeah, and that I was listening to it. I listened to it a number of times, and I could sort of get what it was. I could, yeah, not exactly. And then I just looked it up, and just kind of tried to play it from there. And there's a couple parts of it that actually I never heard until I looked it up and saw
Okay.
what it actually was.
Yeah.
Which was in this case it was um, the when it goes to when it goes to that hammer on right there, it's not apparent to my ear,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and um, the timing of it,
Yeah. I can hear it now.
I could sort of count it out in my head what it was supposed to be. Executing it was different than
Yeah.
that. Um, anyway,
So were you able to figure out what key it's in first by ear?
I'll Follow the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I? Well, I guess I assumed because I started here that it was in C.
Okay. Yeah.
And
And And were you able to pick out those the notes in the arpeggio there? Were you able to find those in that C chord?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
let me hear.
was. Yeah, just sort of doing just the up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was able to do. And then in the G, I could hear I could hear that.
A D in there, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't hear that.
Right, which happens just before the chord change. It's kind of an anticipation because you're obviously going to F right there.
Going to the F here, and I could hear all that.
Okay.
And then this I couldn't. Um, I later discovered that it was a little more particular than I thought. I just thought it was,
Yeah.
it was kind of muddled together.
Right,
Not
right.
muddled together, but it was. I just assumed it was just a strum. Um,
Let me listen to it once. Let me get it back fresh in my head.
okay.
I don't hear the E string on the F chord. So I'm not hearing an F major 7 there. Um, I'm hearing something like something like that in terms of the melody. Does it get to the E on the C chord? So did you find like somebody that had sort of tabbed it out?
Yeah, I could. I could. I can sort of feel and the
Because like yeah, so what I hear on the C chord is this set of notes. Those four notes going from the C to the G to the C to the E.
yeah.
Does that feel right to you? Yeah, yeah. Now what I was doing there, I think we're hearing two guitars there, and so one is kind of strumming it,
Yeah.
and that's where you're hearing that low C. Like I think I'm hearing the lead guitar hitting a high C. I'm hearing this set of notes. Not, but for one guitar, that's a better way to do it is to get that low C on the first beat.
Yeah.
So that would be the four notes that I hear on that C is C, G, C, E. Right?
Yep.
And then on the G chord, what do you think you heard?
On the G chord, what I think I heard was
Yeah. Now, and what I heard there in like just the lead guitar was that D on the first beat. Without the G and the bass.
oh,
So like just the melody I'm hearing without the bass notes or the rhythm guitar chords.
okay.
I'm hearing this. See, I'm hearing that D right on the first beat of the G chord. So what you could do is strum your G chord there. So a great way to play this is what I just did there, which is on the first beat of C, strum the four middle strings. And that gets you the low C and the high C.
Okay.
And then you pick out the G and the C and the E. Then when it goes to the G, the same thing, strum and get the D as part of the strum. And I think it comes back to the open G twice. I think the melody I hear there is this. D, G, D, G. Yeah, which would be upside down with that picking, because that first D would be part of the strum. Those, yeah. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me listen one more time, because then on the F chord. Now, so I didn't try to scope out that hammer on that you're hearing there or you're talking about there yet, but yes, you know what happens right there? The last note that they hit on the G chord was the open G string.
The open G, right?
So then they slap down an F chord really quick, and that's why you're hearing that hammer on, because that G was ringing when the F went on, and that's where the A comes from. Is we hear the A kind of in the background.
Yeah, yeah, that's where the timing was. It seemed like putting on the F chord, including the A, on beat one of the F chord, that was that was the hammer on. And that's
Yeah.
what
See, I think the hammer-on lands before beat one.
but before beat one. Okay.
It's
Okay.
you hit that G. The melody we hear there on the D chord, on the G chord. That last note I heard was a G there, but if I go quickly to an F chord there, you know, you could
Yeah.
hear that hammer on that happened incidentally, I would say. It's kind of it's because they're just slapping on the F chord and not making a big deal of it sounding like this. Like, see, that time that hammer on was like right up front,
Yeah.
I think it's way more in the background than that.
Yeah.
Um, and then what melody notes do you hear on the F chord?
Uh,
Maybe, yeah. Oh man. Okay. If you can listen to this with headphones on, you can hear the two guitars really distinctly in separate channels.
yeah.
And the one on the left is doing the more of the strumming,
Uh-huh.
and the lead by itself is much simpler than you think. It's just this. It's that basic.
Really?
But that combined with what we're hearing the other guitar do makes it sound way more involved. So
Yeah.
let me see. What I'm gonna do is just play the right channel while we listen to this. Let me get my settings up. Change the balance to only right. And now let's listen to this single note guitar. Did you hear that? Just C to G to C to G. Okay, I'm going to back it up because what I'm hearing is C to G twice on the C chord, D to G twice on the G chord, C to A twice on the F chord, and then C to G twice on the C chord again. So that whole thing. I'm even going to slow it down to 75%.
Yeah.
You hear it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now let's listen to the left side. That's where we hear the E.
Yeah.
You hear it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get back to balanced here, and get you back up. Yeah. So I heard that rhythm guitar on the left doing something like this. We definitely heard two E's in there, one on the C chord and one on the F chord.
Yeah.
Um, and so so actually, just combine those as well as you can, and come up, come up with a little hybrid thing of that, where you're strumming the chord on the first beat, but then mostly picking out those right channel notes.
Right.
Other than that, and even on the F. It wouldn't hurt on the C and the G, the first two, we don't want to hear the first string at all because we really want to hear that. And that means you got to kind of, it's a bit of a challenge to strum and not hit the first string. Did we talk about that in some other songs?
Yeah, yeah, we've talked about that before.
By hanging on to the first string, like touching it with a finger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you can grab it with your little finger and then strum and keep it locked in there.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Right there, really want to go to the E.
You know what I would do there is that'd be a really good time to hear the E.
Yeah.
The last note of the F chord. So you hear that high E just before you get to the C and the bass.
Yeah. But not on the first C.
Not on the first, right.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so the last C would really be the same as the first C. Because the E is ringing, the E was hit on the F as the last eighth note of the F.
Okay.
So you're hearing the E when you start the C.
Yeah.
And you don't want to hit it again because just let it keep ringing through there. So again, the F would be this. Then I come back, that's ringing. Oh, so now with that ringing, now you don't want to grab it so that you can get that. You want that E to keep ringing. So if you don't, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I missed the E there. I missed the E.
Yeah, I would. You know what? On that C, when you come back to the C there, I would just hit a bass note like you did. Don't try to strum the four strings and get the high C in there necessarily.
Okay.
It sounds fine to do this on the F, and just get the bass note, and then finish it with the G C G.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So. Well, you know what else would sound good though too is bringing in that E. So now we're kind of modifying what they did, but we're also kind of adapting it for one guitar.
Right.
And I think I would like to hear that E at the end of the first C too. So it's this. Because I think in the rhythm guitar we heard that E in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So yeah. So for us to do exactly what the lead is doing, we're omitting some of the overall sound.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Almost. Yeah, the picking just got a little upside down at the end. But
Yeah.
you know what, you have enough of a handle on that to be able to put it together.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so when it moves into the verse,
Okay.
um, So the verse starts in G, but I couldn't figure out sort of the feel of what this verse, what the
Oh, the strumming.
what the strumming is in the verse. Yeah,
Listen a little further, because I think I hear an unusual chord coming up on the second chord.
yeah.
Um, but you've already looked up the chord, so you already think
I did look at it. Yeah,
you already know what I'm talking about. I think.
yeah. F7.
Yeah.
One day you'll look to see I've gone, for tomorrow may rain, so I'll follow the sun.
And then it ends with that same, little intro-y thing.
The opening riff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Grand Train.
So I would probably start that G chord. It doesn't have anything listed as G, anything other than G major, right? Like they don't have it listed as G7, but they do have the F7 on the second measure, right? Yeah. And that is important because that's the note they sing, right? They're singing D, G, E flat, A. So the F7 is really important because that's the melody note.
Yeah.
And then just a regular C to D. And then we got the descending bass, right? C to B in the bass, and then D and G. Okay, because the rhythm of the vocal, when does that second they sing one day?
Right.
What beats do those two syllables happen on?
They happen on. Let's see.
It's a G chord, right?
Yeah. 1 and 3.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
One day. Okay. One day you'll look or you'll see. What's the word? I forget. Anyway, but one day. So does that day is that happening on a beat or an and? One day you. It's on and up. You hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it's before 3. So it's the and of 2.
The and of 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we want to accent that in the strumming, which is one of our normal strums. Our normal kind of what I call a folk strum is this down, down, up, up, nothing on 3. Right. That's what we need here, and we really want to punch that up. One day you'll look to see I've gone. And then in the next 2 measures, so in the first 2 measures, you want to have the accents where where the notes are,
Yeah.
and in the third and fourth measures, not because it doesn't have the same rhythm. We want to change into a smoother strum and have something on 3. So like for the C and the D,
Yeah.
I went into what I would call the basic rock strum, which is down, down, up, down, up, down, up, quarter and 6/8.
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, I think we want the strumming to sort of go with the lyrics. I mean, go with the rhythm of the words.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the.
Right. And then the smoother rock strum here. Right, and then to D. bass notes here. So on the first beat, you hit the C in the bass, and then a down up. Then the same thing.
Oop. No, it's not the way it goes.
It's only a half a measure.
Yeah, then it goes back to G. Yeah, okay, it goes, yeah. There's, okay, 4 halves in a row there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, go to that G. Go to the one with all the open notes.
Okay. And then it goes to.
Right. These are all just half measure changes. This is the introduction.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, that sounded great. That was, what made that sound really good was you were a little less concerned with exact detail, and so you kept going down here. So the rhythm was better, and you got the notes that you needed in the right spots.
Okay.
When you did it a few minutes ago when we were still talking about it as an intro, you got a little tight and clunky towards the end, like trying to figure out how to get from the F back to the C, and you kind of went to, you were real careful about the notes, and so they slowed down a little bit. And right there, you just flew right through them, and you got the right ones.
Yeah.
So keep the train moving when you're working on that. Don't let this happen. It's like just be reckless.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Just stay on the freeway, not in a particular lane. Yeah.
Yeah. And just try to bring out the melody. Just try to bring out the melody that you're trying to hear. So it's like just aim for the right spots.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the
Oh, one more thing. Like when you went from the G to the F, it was a little sticky when you tried that at first. And so you're gonna have a little trouble getting to that F7 and getting it clean on the first beat. Let go of the G much earlier. A G chord has 3 open strings in it. If you let go of those bass notes, like on the and of 3, it's gonna sound fine.
Okay.
Don't hang on till the and of 4. Usually we try to hang on to a chord till 4.
4.
And let go on the and.
Right.
Okay. Right now you're having trouble getting to that F7 with only that 8th note space.
Yeah.
So buy yourself a little bit more time in there and really aim for that happening as on beat 1 is the whole F7. You just gotta dial it. Now, also practicing a little slower would help there too. Yeah. That's it. Oh, you just went from C to there, I think. G, right? I think you just went from C to the F.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so just that was great. The intro that you came back to right there.
Yeah.
It's really just kind of important to maybe to kind of arpeggiate that somehow. It doesn't have to be exactly what we heard between the combo of the two guitars. So that sounded great what you just did there. Which is typically in that type of arpeggio, you want to get to the highest note as the last note you play on any chord, and then that rings over into the next. And we were talking about that of getting that E
Right.
just before the change, or coming out of the C chord and coming out of the F chord. Yeah, so that last up, you want to, and a lot of this falls in the category. I think we've talked about this, but I may not have used this term of just focused strumming, where you're aiming for zones, or you're kind of aiming for one or two strings, but and that really gives you 5 or 6 different sounds you can have by what zone you hit on the strings.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and in some songs like I'd Love to Change the World or Don't Fear the Reaper, it's all single string zones. We're looking for one string at a time,
Right.
but that doesn't have that doesn't have the percussive rhythmic sound that we're trying to keep going here, where you're a lot of times you're aiming for two strings is fine as long as one of them is the target string. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in this one, so we go through the verse there, and then the first ending is the
The
intro.
intro. Yeah.
The second time through, then it then it yeah, it goes back. I think that's the C7 there,
So what's it doing? Why is there a C7 there?
because it's trying to pull us in another direction.
What direction? Where's it taking us?
The direction it's trying to go to is, well, it's the bridge or the
Right. So is C7 in this key?
no.
Right. Okay. When you make a seventh chord out of anything other than step, what step of the scale does have a seventh chord on it?
5.
5. So we're obviously not on 5.
Right.
We're on 1. So C7 is not in the key. That's going to be the case in every key. A seventh chord built on step 1 to be in the key would have to be a major 7.
Right.
Okay. And that means that we're using this as chord 5 of where it's trying to take us.
Okay.
So
Right.
chord step 5 is called the dominant, remember?
Right.
And this is what we call a
The dominant 7,
secondary dominant.
secondary dominant.
This
Okay.
is acting as a dominant chord to something other than 1.
Then where we okay.
And so it's taken us to the chord that it's pulling us. We may go somewhere else, but it's pulling us to the chord that it's 5 of.
Okay.
So what is C 5 of?
Um, it's 5 of G.
Not quite.
No. Of F.
Right. And F is what number in our key?
In our key, in our original key
Yeah.
of C,
Yeah.
it's 4.
Right. So if we were to write this out in like almost a schematic or a using Roman numerals to identify the chords 1, 2, 3, 5, we would not call this a 1-7 because if you wrote a Roman 1 with a 7 in it, I'd be playing a major 7th chord because that's what happens when you make 1 a 7th chord.
Okay.
And so in that scheme of writing stuff out like that, you don't distinguish between major 7, minor 7. Like if a chord's a minor and a 7, you just write a small 2 and put a 7 next to it, and that means minor 7.
Okay.
But in this case, we have to write a 5-7 for this C and a slash of what it's 5 of.
Okay.
We write it like a fraction, and that's what you do with secondary dominants. A secondary dominant is a 5-7 of something. And
Okay.
so we'd write capital V7 slash, and then we put a capital 4 underneath it because 4 is what this is the dominant of.
Okay.
Then we expect the next chord to be 4. But it may not be. In this case, it is, I think. So if I wrote a 1-7, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, that's telling me that I'm playing a major seventh chord built on step 1.
Okay.
But here's how I write C7 in this. See the capital 5-7 over 4.
Okay.
So that's what you do with a secondary dominant. And so 5-7 always means it's a dominant seventh chord. That's where the term dominant comes from, is the fact that it occurs on step 5 of a scale.
Okay.
And that's why, so again, a dominant 7 is like the opposite or the partner to a major 7 chord. Those are the two seventh chords that are built on a major triad and just have different sevenths,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So anyway, so that's what that C7 is, and this happens in really typical in like country songs. I'm gonna make up a country song. I may have done this before. Something like do 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 do. I'm just going from C to G. Now I'm gonna use G7 for the second line. Do 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 do. Here are that C7 set up chord 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly what's happening here.
Okay. Okay.
Unlike now, so to sort of divest, or earlier in the song we used an F7
Right.
that had no business being in there, and F7 would in terms that's not this. That was not a secondary dominant.
Right.
And because it's not taking us, it's taking us back to C. Right? Okay?
Yeah.
So that's a totally different use of a dominant seventh chord that is in there to create a bluesy sound. Because if I was going to play blues, if I was going to play a blues tune in C,
Yeah.
I would use seventh chords for everything. It'd be C7 and F7. Something happened. Oh, that's not what I want to do. Seems I've got to have a change of scene, 'cause every night I've got the strangest dream. So feeling all right is a good example of something that does that. 1 and 4, it's just 1 and 4, but they're both played as seventh chords.
Okay.
Which is what the other one I started singing was. Oh, for what it's worth. There's something happening here. E7 and A7. What it is ain't exactly clear. So, okay, so now we get into either the bridge or the chorus, depending on what we want to call it. In this case, they're going to do it again. So I'm pretty sure that this part happens twice. So I'd be more inclined, the part that starts on F.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, does it start on F?
No, it doesn't start on F.
Oh, right. Instead.
Goes to F. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Goes
So,
to F, but doesn't start there.
yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about after the C7.
Yeah. After the C7. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes to where?
It goes to.
Yeah, yeah. And what's happening here is that if we were in the key of F,
Right.
C7 would be chord 5.
Yeah.
And instead it goes to, in the key of F, well, it goes to D minor, right?
Right.
And
Goes
so
to
what number is that in F?
E6.
What's happening is, instead of going to 1 to the major chord that we expect it to,
Right.
it goes to the relative minor. It takes us to chord 6 of that key,
Right.
which turns out to be chord 2 in this key anyway. So something I did say a little while ago is that this chord is pulling us to F, but we may not necessarily go there. Instead, we're going to a minor chord kind of as a twist, as a surprise. Instead of going, like, you heard the little country song I made up, that C7, when I went to F, it sounded like that was perfect.
Yeah.
But in this case, they go to the relative minor of F, D minor, and that's just as reasonable a resolution, or at least a new launching point. So, so even though we had 5-7 of 4, it was not followed by 4. It was followed by 2.
Right.
We still, so we don't change what we called that C7 because that's why, anyway, that's how we define that C7 is it's the dominant of 4.
Okay.
But then we snuck in the back door with 2 instead of 4.
Okay, but we stayed in because we stuck in. We come here, and then it goes to this mysterious F6.
Right.
Um, we're still in C.
Right. Right. So the same way an F7 chord earlier to create a bluesy sound using a chord outside of the key.
Yeah.
We've done that. They've done that here with this F. It's more important that this is a F minor rather than F6. Because it's an F minor 6 that they're going to.
F minor 6.
Yeah, it's not just F6.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and so the odd note here is the note that makes it minor, not the note that makes it 6. The note that makes it 6 is D. It was just in the last chord,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So what we're hearing, so the melodic motion that we're hearing here is that I'm on a D minor chord, and one of the notes in that D minor chord is this A.
Right.
And in the F minor 6, we have an A flat.
Right.
And that chord is followed by C that has a G in it. What we're hearing is this chromatic descent of these 3 chords. An A, now the time has come, and oh my love, I must go. Though we lose a friend, in the end you will know. Oh, one day, and then it goes back into there. So they've done a little chromatic alteration here with this F minor 6. And it's a really powerful chord because it because of this A flat that made us had this half step descent, creating this little chromatic thing. We talked about the chord progression, I think, to something a while ago, didn't we? Or not? Maybe not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'll save that for another day. But it does. We'll have to. You might listen to something. Listen to the demo version of something which has George playing it with just the acoustic guitar and strumming it.
Okay.
As opposed to the version on Abbey Road.
Okay.
So dig it up. It's on Anthology 3, I think, of him doing that, and we'll break that one down like another time, maybe next week or maybe in the future.
Okay. So what? Again, I always ask this with Beatles songs, early Beatles songs. This descending chromatic series
Yeah.
that we did here. Did they know that they were doing that, or did they just do it? And,
They must have heard stuff like this done in jazzier tunes. McCartney must have heard this in songs he was growing up, and he probably couldn't explain what it was, but when he messed around on the guitar, and because this is actually one of the absolute earliest songs they ever wrote. They wrote this 2 or 3 years before they recorded it, and they recorded it on a really early album. It was on with the Beatles for Sale or something. Second, third, fourth album, right in '64 or so, like that, '65 maybe, and but they had really written it probably about 5 years before. There are a few songs of theirs that were really early tunes, and then they recorded them. One After 909's the classic example, because that didn't show up till like Let It Be, but that was written 10 years earlier, like in 1960 or so.
okay.
And this one I think is from that same era when they were just starting to mess around with songwriting. And but this shows some pretty serious sophistication for like a 19 or 20-year-old kid. And so so he couldn't necessarily explain why it sounded good, but it's like I could just see him playing that chord and saying, "Oh man, that's really cool. We got to make sure we work that into the song." And it has to resolve. And he found that C resolved the mud he just stepped into.
Right. And
Yeah.
he might have written this out like in chord chart form, but actually somebody else wrote this out musically.
Oh yeah. Probably not even that. Like I don't think they ever wrote down any of the stuff they did later on. You know, if they needed something spelled out like for a piano player or the orchestra, George Martin would always take care of that. You know, and Paul probably at the time couldn't have even told you that this chord is F minor 6. You know, later in his career he would have been able to, but not when he wrote this song. I'm partially speculating, but
That's amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay. All right.
well, that tied you over for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I don't even know. I assume I have a lesson on this. Did you look?
yeah, I did. You do. You do.
Okay, good.
Pretty early on. Yeah, you do. And this thing resolves after the two of the chorusing. Just make sure I understand. It comes back after that chorus, and then it goes all the way back to.
Back to a verse. And so the last chord in the chorus, normally you'd end your chorus on 5 to start to kick you back to 1 to start the new verse.
Right.
But these verses don't start on 1.
No.
So this leaves you hanging on the chord. It leaves you hanging on 2. It leaves you hanging on D minor
Yeah.
to set up the verse that has to start on 5.
Right.
So it's using 2 as the end. Yeah, so like both of these, this section doesn't have it's not tied up. It's leaving you hanging. It's not even taking you back to 1, right? It's so, yeah, you have to end this song with the intro again, you know, to run through those 4 chords and to come back to C. That's got to be how it ends.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Fascinating, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.